it seems like a lot of people are starting to speak out about Colin Kaepernick and maybe some of his virtue signaling, some of the work that he says he wants to do for the black community while not actually doing any work for the black community, which isn't a surprise considering Colin Kaepernick grew up in a rich white neighborhood. But Pacman Jones is now coming out and saying he agrees with Antonio Brown on a lot of things involving Colin Kaepernick. Questions Colin Kaepernick's charity work. I do think AB is right. Speaking with us out at LAX just a few days after Brown ripped Cap, Jones, who actually watched Kaepernick throw last month, said he also isn't entirely sure what Kaepernick has done for his community since settling his lawsuit with the NFL in 2019. As far as the community part, I think AB's right. We haven't heard anything that Cap did for the community or given back to the community after the settlement. So now we've had Antonio Brown come out. We've had Sean Merriman come out. We've had Pacman Jones. You've got these guys who are either in the league or very, quickly exited from the league within the last few years. They're coming out and saying, Kaepernick's getting his money, but he doesn't seem to be doing a whole lot. He's not putting that money where his mouth is, which I think is interesting. Now, like I said, I know Rhodes made it, but what do you think about this, John, from your perspective?
Well, this is not a surprise. Colin Kaepernick did not grow up in the hood. Colin Kaepernick has probably never been to the hood. Colin Kaepernick grew up pretty well. I've seen the hood. Colin Kaepernick has not. Colin Kaepernick is a grifter. There's no other way to put it. He is a grifter. And he has this, Know Your Rights campaign, or that's about it. You never actually see what they're doing. Colin Kaepernick only tweets. Now, we were talking about how some of these people don't even tweet. Colin Kaepernick doesn't tweet that much. He shows up every now and then, but you still never see his actual work that he's doing out there in the community. The only thing I've seen is he's gotten paid. He got the Netflix money, he got the Nike money, and he's producing these workout videos, allegedly trying to get back in the NFL. But I haven't seen anything he's done for black people at all, because Colin Kaepernick does not know the community. He doesn't know it because he never grew up in it.
Yeah, I think that's the key to gaining people to see your perspective. Like, getting people to see your perspective is exposing the hypocrisy of something. And I think in his case, people are starting to see a little bit more of that, where it's like, again, the most glaring one to me is the simple, why do you keep acting like you want in the NFL when you act like this NFL is the evil organization? You're supposed to be the leader against these guys. And so as there's more and more things just coming up, I just see more people speaking up about it. It doesn't surprise me that they're the Antonio Browns and the Pacman Joneses of the world that are setting the tone for that. Because say what you will about those guys, those are the kind of guys who really are going to speak their mind. They're bold personalities, and they're not going to give a crap what you have to say about it, because that's who they are. That's how they go about their life, and that's how they voice their opinions. And so, but it's interesting because you see that now with guys like that setting that tone is really starting to gain momentum, and people are starting to see the hypocrisy in some of this stuff.
Yeah, and Pacman Jones did go on to elaborate that he doesn't necessarily think he's as trash or as washed as Antonio Brown said, but he did say that, there's no way that Colin Kaepernick would go to one of these other leagues that's starting up, that he would go to try to prove his worth in like the XFL or the USFL or any of these other things because he wants the money. Like, that's all he cares about. He got all this money, so he's not going to play just because he loves it. The only reason he'd come back to play was for NFL big-time money, which just goes on to another thing that he thinks about him, that he truly is just obsessed with the money at this point.
Well, I question how much Kaepernick, I think that's an interesting question to pose, and it's all speculative, but does this guy actually want back in the NFL? Because as long as he says he does, he's relevant, and that keeps the conversation going. At this point with Colin Kaepernick, the percentage is the perception is his bottom line. If he can convince people that he's still relevant, and keep that conversation going, that's good for him and his brand. And I wouldn't have a problem seeing somebody sign him, honestly. Like, if you want to sign him and you think you can win, the NFL's been signing people for a long time that you would be like, well, he's not necessarily, I might not have the best opinion of him as a person, but they try it. I don't think he was very good. And I don't think that when you exit the league, you're not very good and you don't play football for how many years has it been now? It's been a lot of years. And he's in his mid 30s now. why would you be expecting some sort of great comeback at that point? But if he keeps talking about it, he keeps bringing it up, he's still relevant. And that's exactly what he wants. So I question how much he actually wants back.
You remember he actually was getting traded to the Broncos, and he didn't want to go there because I believe the money wasn't right. People forget about that. We talked about the Ravens. That didn't happen either. Seattle was in the midst. The NFL put all these workouts for him. He didn't show up. He doesn't want to play.
What's his
wants to
worth,
be a
though?
victim.
Like, what is Colin Kaepernick worth at this point? Because even hearing the money isn't right.
If anything, at this point, he's a veteran minimum contract guy at this point. He's been gone way too long, and the last time we saw him, he wasn't that good.
Yeah, he should be getting, like, for him to come back, you should be looking at third string quarterback type of money.
Right.
Like that's what you should be looking at. But he creates far more problems and distractions than a third string quarterback does. I would love it if somebody actually took a chance and signed him, because then we get to talk about him more. But you're right, Johnny, that it's about perception. That he needs, the reason he's coming out and continues to talk about it every 6 months to a year is because if the perception is no longer that Colin Kaepernick is being blackballed from the NFL over his politics, and instead people realize that he's just not any good, then he loses his victimhood. He needs to maintain that, which is why he keeps it on with this lie. But it's great to see these other guys come out and call him out. So hopefully it'll continue, and hopefully we'll see more of it.